as lieutenant colonel. My father was buried with full military honors by United States Army Honor Guard in Westchester County on October 16, 2018. He is with us here today. And in terms of prophetic time, this ancient Israelite autist believes that it is the 95th day of the second year of the regenerating fifth Israelite monarchy of Daniel's vision. Please see the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 44, which he believes began on Rosh Chodesh Nisan 1 year and 3 months ago. So, without further ado, I will introduce our speaker, Mr. Davidiy, and later, Dr. Glassman will give him a proper, more in-depth introduction. Yair, I'm handing this over to you. Thank you so much.
Shalom. Shalom, Arieh. Lowell, how are you? I'm here. You're interested in the lost 10 tribes in Scandinavia. So we analyzed the question of the lost 10 tribes. Where did the lost 10 tribes go to? Originally, you had the Hebrews came out of Egypt. We had Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Yaakov was renamed Israel. There were 12 sons, gave rise to 12 tribes. Actually 13, because the tribe of Joseph was divided into two, Ephraim and Manasseh. But the Bible, the Tanakh, always maintains a quorum of 12 by either counting Ephraim and Manasseh as one tribe of Joseph, or counting both Ephraim and Manasseh separate tribes, but not counting Levi. But nevertheless, technically there were 13 tribes of Israel. The Israelites came out of Egypt. They were in the wilderness. They received the Torah. They came into the land of Canaan and they conquered it and settled in it. At the beginning, they were ruled by a series of judges, leaders, charismatic leaders, one could say, inspired holy people. After that came the period of the kings. The first king was King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. Then David and Solomon. Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. After Solomon came Rehoboam. In English transliteration, Rehoboam, in the time of Rehoboam, 10 of the tribes separated. They set up their own kingdom in the north, headed by Jeroboam, Yeravam in Hebrew. He set up his own entity, actually containing numerically, demographically, the bulk of the Hebrew peoples of that time. And so they continued as two separate nations, one alongside the other. At times they fought with each other, at times they cooperated in different ways. But nevertheless, they were separate. They went their separate ways. After about almost 200 years, the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, and they took all of the 10 tribes into exile. They took a portion of them, or most of them, overland into the regions of the Assyrian Empire. Others, they settled in their colonies overseas using Phoenicians, that is, people, Canaanites, from the cities of Tyre and Sidon, and also Philistines, who identified, according to archaeological findings, with Mycenaean Greek or Minoan from Crete. Findings, actually, the Philistines were also participants of that culture. So they too helped the Assyrians to settle people overseas. So we had two pathways of divisions of the Israelite nation, of those exiles who were taken away, and incidentally, all of the northern kingdom was taken. The 90% of the northern kingdom was destroyed, was burnt. All the cities were burnt. According to archaeological evidence that proves this, and the people disappeared almost altogether. There were some remnants got to Jerusalem, which increased at that stage, at the stage of destruction of the northern kingdom's population increased, actually, in what's now the Jewish quarter, received an influx of population of refugees from the northern tribes. Nevertheless, this was only a small minority, and most of the Israelites were exiled. And not only were most of the northern Israelites from the 10 tribes were exiled, but also a good portion of Jews from the kingdom of Judah when Sennacherib invaded Jerusalem shortly after he taken away. The lost 10 tribes have been 10 tribes have been taken away. Also, Judah was invaded. good portion of Judah was also taken. They joined up the 10 tribes in their places of exile, and they accounted as part of them. Nahimanides, in his book of Redemption, Sefer Guli, speaks of this at length. And he tells us how the Bible looks at things, how we look at things, how we to consider things. So the main bulk of the 10 tribes were taken into exile. They went to different portions of the Assyrian Empire. And after permutations, different overthrows of kingdoms and joining and becoming independent of the Assyrians and joining up other peoples, and they moved to the north. They were already close. Many of them had already been settled close to the Caucasus regions. They moved north of the Caucasus. From there, they moved northward, and they entered Scandinavia. Others of them had been taken by the proxies of the Assyrians to Spain, to portions of Britain, also possibly to Scandinavia itself. And at that time, the climate was different. Scandinavia enjoyed a Mediterranean type of climate, and the cultivation of the soil continued much further north than it does at present. And archaeologists have found the Bronze Age Scandinavia. Bronze Age Scandinavia was connected with the Mediterranean area. They found findings, they find relics, they find types of furniture similar to those of Egypt, similar to those of Mycenaean Greece, similar to those of the Phoenicians, also in some way similar to those of Israel. And this is accepted. This is incidentally, this is not some hidush. It's not a new finding that we are putting on people, placing before people. It is known. This is known. It's in Scandinavia. It's accepted in academic circles. I have a book here. A lot of books here. But one of these books. This is the Rise of Bronze Age Society. It's an academic work. It's accepted in academic circles, and he describes it with full of illustrations what happened in Bronze Age Sweden and Scandinavia in general, where they had a lot of findings that are identical with those of the Middle East and the Near East area. So it is accepted that culturally, Bronze Age Sweden had an ethnic influx of newcomers from the Middle East area. So logistically, to say that a portion of them, or a good number of them, were from Israel, is not logistically improbable. It is not because others were there, or people from bearing a similar type of culture were there, and this is accepted. And the lost tribes of Israel, these tribes, they meet not only in Scandinavia, but also in a good portion of Western Europe, in the Netherlands, in France, in Switzerland. You find evidence of Israelites being there, also in the British Isles, in Ireland, throughout Scotland, in England, Wales. We find evidence of Israelites having been there, and the Scandinavian input, the Scandinavian participation in this is what I said, is that a participation of one portion of Israelite tribes reached Scandinavia. And we have a lot of proofs of this from all different ways. In general, the Bible says that the lost tribes will be in the north, to the northern land of Israel, will be to the north and the west, will be isles of the sea or in peninsulas. And they would be in areas that are associated with Western Europe. And we find amongst the peoples who populated Scandinavia, incidentally, Scandinavia went through a lot of changes. What I just told you about Bronze Age Scandinavia being connected to the Middle East, that is conventionally dated to long before the lost 10 tribes were exiled. So that is where we differ with the conventional academic findings. We say that the dates should be much lower than they place them. But apart from that, they agree with us. So to the dolmens, they agree that the dolmens, megalithic monuments, show a pathway of migration from the Middle East area, from the area of ancient Israel. They'll go through the Caucasus region into Bulgaria, to Southeast Europe, and then go up into Scandinavia, or across the sea to the British Isles and along the coast. This is also agreed upon, but the dates they place begin much much long before the lost tribes were exiled, according to the conventional understanding. But we disagree with the dating. We find the traces of Israelites in Scandinavia. We're not saying that the Scandinavians all descend from Hebrews. We are saying that there was a portion of some lost tribes in Scandinavia. A portion of the people do descend from Israelites. And the Israelites there did have an influence upon the national characteristics of the people there. And so it could be that a good portion of the people are of Israelite descent. What portion exactly it pertains to, we cannot say. But we can say that historically it has an influence, and it is there to see, and it can be proven. We'll take, I'll give you, for example, Sweden. We identify Sweden with the tribe of Gad. Sweden was founded, the country of Sweden was founded when the Goths and the Swea, people known as the Swea, joined together. It had been divided into two parts. The Swea, also known as the Suoni, according to Tacitus, the Roman historian, and the Goths, or the Guti, also known as Guti. And when they joined together, that created the country of Sweden. Okay, so the Goths were an important element within the formation of Sweden. The very name Goth in Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, could be pronounced as Gad. We have the O sound in Goth, in Gad, in Temenit, the Temenim, also have a type of Hebrew, pronounced Hebrew similar to it as it was in biblical times. So they would have pronounced it Gad as Goth or something similar. D without an accent, it could have been pronounced as a Tha. So we have Goth being pronounced the same way, another form of pronunciation of the word Gad. And also in Gothic place names in Sweden, we often find it pronounced as Gad. So not only could Goth be another pronunciation of Gad, but Gad was another pronunciation for Goth. So we have a direct one-on-one, according to the names identification. The Sweons, Swea, also known as Sweon. So the firstborn son of Gad was Shuon. And it's in the northern tribes, where in words that we pronounce as Shin, they often pronounce as Sa. Without the SH sound, we also find Shibboleth, the famous story in the Bible, where they wanted to determine who is from the tribe of F1, asked him to say Shibboleth. Instead of saying Shibboleth, it was Shibboleth. And so we find this too. So the Swea, or the Sweons, have also the same name as Shuoni, a son of Gad. Another son of Gad was Harodi, and he had the Herudi, or the Herudi Goths. The important in Scandinavia had the same name. Also, they had the Arieh, son of Gad, and the Heruli were also an important element people in Scandinavia associated with the Goths. And we have we use a lot of different sources. So one of the sources we use, just a second, is rabbinical sources. We use rabbinical sources. This is this book, a very good book by Fisher Ma'al, Shiftei Yisrael. He goes into the characteristics, the personality characteristics of each of the tribes, according to biblical sources and rabbinical commentators. He has nothing to do with us. He knows about us, so he spoke to him on the phone, but he worked entirely without any knowledge of us, without any idea of who those 10 tribes whatsoever. Just he was what interested him here was the personality of each of the different tribes, according to the sources, and how the sources describe them. So he says about Gad. Gad, as the word Gad, the name Gad has several different connotations. One of them is connected to Gedud. Gad, Gedud, Yigudenu. And when Jacob gave the name Gad to his son, or when the name Gad was given to Gad, it was a Gedud, Gidudenu. It's associated with the word Gedud, meaning group of people. And according to Fisher Ma'al, the characteristic of Gad is to be concerned with the group. The individual functioning as part of a group, not standing out, but a group working together. And this is, of all the peoples on earth, the Swedes have this characteristic. The Swedes are known of this. No man left behind. The Swedes don't like people taking charge. They like to sit around and decide things, to do things as groups, as a group of people, and they succeed in it. And they look after each other. They have a concept of social welfare, communal social welfare, that everyone is looked after, but everyone gives, and it works for them because the people that also have this consciousness to work for the group, to do what the group needs, and to be part of it. And they don't like people putting themselves outside of the group or not working in tandem with the group. And this, according to the characteristic of Gad, is a tribal characteristic of Gad. This is where we find them. Amongst the Swedes, and we find tribal names connected with Gad amongst peoples who comprise the Swedish nation. And we had in Scandinavia itself, we had their relationship to the Jews was not as good as it should have been at all times, but we had exceptional people who helped, who did things. Raoul Wallenberg saved a lot of Jews in Hungary. He was sent by the Swedish government to do that, and this is what he did. Also, the Swedes were neutral in the Second World War, but they helped the Allies. They were in a difficult position and helped the Allies much more than they helped the Nazis. The